2 years ago, President Obama committed his administration to creating an unprecedented level of openness in government. Toward this end, the administration has issued important policy changes, a new memorandum on Freedom of Information Act and the Attorney General guidelines on the same, a new executive order and new executive orders on classified national security information and on controlled unclassified information. To help meet the goal of embedding openness in the government, the administration has also taken steps to make information more available and usable by the public, including setting up data.gov and requiring agencies to draw up plans to hardwire openness into the way the government operates. Agencies have taken up the challenge, but more needs to be done. During this event, transparency experts from inside and outside government will discuss how these initiatives are being put into practice from both a policy, our first panel, and a technical standpoint. What more we can do and should expect the administration to do to meet its goal. We are honored to welcome today David S. Ferriero, the 10th Archivist of the United States. He was confirmed in November 2009, so he's still fairly new at the job. You have the bios of all of the panelists in your program, so I'm not going to go into detail. We are also honored to welcome Stephen P. Crowley, Special Assistant to the President for Justice and Regulatory Policies with the White House Domestic Policy Council, and Gary Bass, Executive Director of OMB Watch and soon to be Chief Executive of the Bauman Family Foundation. We thank each of you for joining us here today. I'm going to move over here so I'm not on my heels. David, let's start with you today. The National Archives and Records Administration is a key agency in the world of access to government information, but truth be told, it's not very well known in the openness and transparency world writ large. Could you tell us about the many roles that NARA plays and what you see as NARA's role in open government, and also what you understand open government to encompass?
Sure, I would expand that concern about what the archives is all about to the larger community in general, because I think the question I get most often since I've taken this new job is, so does that mean you're the Librarian of Congress? The National Archives is responsible for the records of government. That's the purview, and that means that we have, under the Federal Records Act and under the Presidential Records Act, the responsibility of ensuring that the records are created, maintained, transferred to us at the appropriate time, and accessible to the American public. That's what the mission of the archives is all about. 3 units within the National Archives play an important role in that, and maybe those are less well known, but let me just tick them off. You've heard a lot this week about the Office of Government Information Services. Miriam Nisbet is in the room. That office has been described as by Congress as the FOIA ombudsman. This service acts as a service to the American public for resolution of problems that they may be having in their FOIA requests. It also has the responsibility of providing recommendations to the President on changes in the FOIA legislation. So an important part of access to records in open government. At the end of December 2009, the President issued the National Declassification Executive Order. That is a center that has been established within the archives with the responsibility of reviewing for declassification more than 400 million pages of classified content by the end of 2013. Huge responsibility, massive amount of material going back to World War I. And the third is the Information Security Oversight Office, ISOO, which has responsibility of reviewing classification guides, security arrangements for classification of information across the federal agencies. You may not know that there are more than 2,400 different classification guides in operation at the moment. So one of the responsibilities of that office is reviewing the number of classification guides and coming up with a reduced number.
You mentioned, just now that the president had mandated the creation of the National Declassification Center and the declassification of 400 million documents. How is that progressing? Also, we have heard about problems in the past with the emails of presidents and vice presidents from across party lines. There is also evidence that government-wide email records of the work of our government are not being appropriately managed and preserved for history and accountability. What is NARA, and first answer, how's the classification going? And then on the second question, what is NARA and the government generally doing to address the real concerns about preservation of e-records and particularly email in the government?
So let me start by talking about the status report on National Declassification Center, and there's a great report on the Archives website that gives you far more detail about the work that has gone on to prioritize and review the categories of content to be reviewed. But as of the 31st of December 2011, we have reviewed more than 14.5 million pages. And of that 14.5 million pages, roughly 13 million pages have been made available to the open shelf. So we've made initial progress, but let me clarify that by telling you that the focus has been on the easiest stuff first.
Wow.
No question about it, while we work out the details of how to review the rest of the material. And the process, the categorization, is driven by user interest, user requests. So we've had several opportunities for the community to participate in open discussions about what's most important, and also our own information about what's most requested in terms of declassification requests, FOIA requests. The second part of that
Was email?
Email.
E-records?
E-records. Let me tell you that in my 16 months on the job, that the electronic record issue is certainly the most important one that I've been dealing with. And I must tell you the story. I come from the research library community. My lives in the libraries at MIT, Duke University, and the New York Public Library. And at each one of those institutions, at some point in my life, an administrator or faculty member came to me and said, "What are we doing about electronic records, electronic mail? What should we be doing about that?" And I said, "Oh, you don't have to worry about that because the National Archives is creating a facility to take care of that." So here I am to tell you that we do have something called the Electronic Records Archive. It is live, and it's being used now by about 40 agencies. We are concluding development on that at the end of this year. We will migrate the rest of the agencies to the Electronic Record Archive. There is a presidential instance of the Electronic Records Archive, so that is where we'll be capturing presidential records. My concern has to do with what's going on in the agencies. Our recent report, self-assessment that was done by our records management unit, indicates that 95% of the agencies self-identified at being at moderate to high risk around their electronic records. So we have a huge challenge ahead of us in working with those agencies to ensure that the records that are being created are captured and are going to be available as our paper records are in perpetuity. One of the challenges has been a discovery that I made as I'm learning the ropes of the job. We have within the federal government, we have something known as the CIO Council, and we have another group known as the Records Management Council. These two groups don't talk to each other. They don't meet together. So in my conversations with Vivek Kundra, we have actually brought together the two groups for the first time to start talking. It's impossible for CIOs to go off and create new systems without thinking about the records implications, and those records managers in those agencies need to be involved in those decisions too. So it's a multi-pronged approach to how we get our heads around the electronic records.
Thank you. Thank you.